So now I will show me the slide deck. I'll show you how we use ChatGPT and artificial intelligence being programmers. So I structured my lecture, my presentation in 4 parts. I will, starting from the most boring part down to the most exciting one. First, I will show you what do we use today as programmers. So how we apply ChatGPT, machine learning, AI to the programming tasks we solve right now. Then we'll go to tomorrow. So what I think will show up on the market in a few days, in a few months, like really next, maybe this year. And then we'll see what will happen in a few years, my prediction. My prediction combined with the prediction of some companies who I know. And then I will try to, in the end, I will show you the far future, what I think will happen in 10, maybe 20 years, how programmers will change, how the artificial intelligence will change the life of us programmers. So let's start from today, chapter 1. I will give you a number of examples of the tools which we use for writing code. The first, the most obvious example is auto-completion. Maybe you know what it is. We programmers, when we write code, we sometimes can stop and then wait for artificial intelligence. We call it Copilot. It's one of the biggest, one of the brightest examples on the market. Copilot can suggest me the next part of the code, which I don't need to write. I just see it showing up. And then I just click one button and this code gets into the code base. And this is an example. You don't see what's there, but because your slide's too small font, but that's a demonstration. We develop in our laboratory, we develop our own programming language. And this programming language is very niche programming language. So ChatGPT and Copilot, they don't know about this language. They were not trained to write code in this language. But surprisingly, when we type some code in our own language, Copilot suggests me what should go next after the first line of the code. So somehow it understands my syntax, it understands the semantic of the language, and sometimes it even makes the right prediction. That's really interesting, really beautiful, and I think it will exist, and this is the technology which is quite stable. Second one, pull requests explanation. So when programmers write code, they write code in a team. So one programmer writes something, then the changes the programmer makes sends to me, and I need to do the review of these changes before these changes get accepted to the code base. So we do it in pull requests. The pull request is a piece of code which is coming from one programmer to another. And we need to do so-called review of this pull request. So we need to decide whether this pull request is acceptable or not, to reject or to accept. And to make this decision, sometimes it's necessary to go through hundreds of lines of code written by one programmer. So I'm, as a reviewer, I have hard time sometimes to understand what this pull request is actually doing. So what is going on? Why these changes are happening? And there is a tool which we use in our teams. It's a combination of some Python code and the ChatGPT as a service. So it just goes through these hundreds of lines of code and makes a summary of it. It just shows me this is what is going on in this pull request. And again, it's a demonstration. Maybe you don't see that, but that's a live example where we have the pull request and then the description of this pull request. So for me, it saves my time. It helps me as a programmer to immediately understand what's going on there. That's another application of AI, of ChatGPT in this particular case. Another example, reviewing changes. When the changes are in front of me, I know the description of what's going on there, but I still want to continue asking some, refining questions. So I want to know, okay, why these 15 lines of code are right there? So what are the changes happening in this particular function? I can ask this question, and again, the integration of GitHub plus this number of scripts plus ChatGPT, they together send me the summary, send me the answer. So they describe, they explain me what the author of the pull request had in mind. And it's really helpful. This is the instrument which we use. It helps us as programmers. It saves our time. And this is, let me sidetrack a little bit. So this is one of the most popular questions that people ask me for the last year and a half. What is the future of us programmers? Are we supposed to be scared of computers which are supposed to replace us in the future? So this is the demonstration how we programmers are being slowly replaced step by step. So now I spend less time on understanding the code. So my time in the office is now free. Like I have more free time. I have to do something else. So computers actually are replacing us. And how much they will replace, that's a question for the future. And I will show you more examples now, which will demonstrate that yes, more and more things they will do, the computers. So the question will be for us, what we will do in this free time. Like in this example, I have the pull request 2 years ago, I had to spend 1 hour to understand what the code is doing. Now I spend 15 minutes because ChatGPT gives me the answers I'm looking for. Another example, pull request list risk analysis. Again, it's about code changes. So pull requests are coming, there are many of them. Many pull requests are coming when the team is quite large. There are many changes that are coming in, and we need to decide which pull request is difficult, is risky, is challenging, is potential threat to the code base, to the quality of code base, which is not. So we have a tool, CodeBall. It's one of the tools. I don't know another one, but this one definitely exists. Again, they use ChatGPT. So what they do, they take a look at the changes made in the pull request, and they decide whether this pull request is risky, so you need to pay attention to it, or it's a pretty safe pull request. So don't pay too much attention, just accept it. And this decision, you see the markers, they put the yellow or the green labels, and these labels are the indicators, the decisions that these tools made for the pull request. Again, that's the tool which we have already right now on the market. Explain this to me. So another application of ChatGPT, and you see on the code, there's a piece of code which I wrote, and then the green piece of the code which stays on top of that, it's an explanation of the functionality of this function. So I have a function that's, I believe it's a Rust programming language, so it's a Rust programming language. I don't know what the function is doing, and in a good code base, each function has to be explained with a comment section which is going in front of the function. So how do I do it? I can write it myself, understanding what the function is doing, or I just click one button using this plugin for VS Code, and it will immediately, boom, place the large explanation of what's going on in the function. Very useful. Again, my time is saved. So instead of doing it manually, I just do it in one click. Quite practical, even though I don't use VS Code, but for the VS Code users, that should be helpful. Everything I just mentioned, all these instruments, they can be packaged in one, they exist in one package. Safurai, I never used it, but I know it exists. It's quite a powerful package. It packages all together in one plugin for VS Code. So you just install it, and then you can comment your text, you can explain your text, you can refactor your test, your code. You can even write the unit test. We will talk about this a little bit later. So another tool, practical instrument for which already exists now. Remember, we're in the section called Today, so it already exists. Repeat after me. That's a very interesting feature, which exists, to my knowledge, only for for Visual Code, for Visual Studio, sorry. Imagine you have a large code base and you start making changes in the code base, being a programmer. So you change one line here, you change it there, then you go to another file, you make a similar change, you go to another file, you can make a similar change. So you need to make a number of repetitive changes. For example, you upgrade from one library to another library, from one version of the library to another version of the library. You need to make many repetitive changes to a number of files. There's a plugin which will understand what you're doing on the second or the third attempt. And it will say, hey, I understand what you're doing. I can do the same for another 100 files. It's very helpful for programmers. Again, it saves a lot of time for us programmers, because before, 2 years ago, I had to do it myself, manually going through one file to another. It's a very powerful thing. Unfortunately, it exists, to my knowledge, only for Visual Studio. It doesn't exist for IntelliJ, for example. It would be helpful. So maybe some of you can develop something like that. Detecting bugs. We're getting to more difficult things. So ChatGPT can detect bugs. So you can take a piece of code, give it to ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT, do you see any bugs in there? And ChatGPT is quite powerful to tell you that, yes, in this line or in that line, you have some wrong functionality which will lead to functionality bugs. So the code compiles, but it's not going to work when you run it on a real situation. And what's interesting is that existing open source large language models, they cannot do the same. This is the quick analysis which was published, I think, like 3 months ago. Some guy did this analysis, and they compared, I think, 6 open source large language models with ChatGPT. So if you see the numbers, these 6 models, they detected almost 0 defects, while ChatGPT detected almost all defects. So that's kind of a hint to us that ChatGPT most probably is not just a large language model, it's something else. So ChatGPT is a large language model plus something on top of that, and something big, which we don't know. So there is a secret which Microsoft knows, but we don't know. And when we really compare large language models with ChatGPT, you have to understand that you're talking about two different things. It's like ChatGPT is like a car, and large language model is just a wheel. So you do have a wheel in the car, but you can't really drive a single wheel. This is the practical example. So large language models cannot do what ChatGPT is doing. So detecting bugs, it's something that works right now. Even though I don't know any static analyzers which would integrate ChatGPT, maybe that's for the future research, which I think they will appear on the market quite soon. Like some tool where I can give my code, my a lot of code, or my entire code base, for example, in Java, and then it will run through the code and will say, I see the problems here, here, and there. Right now, you can only post a piece of code to ChatGPT and get an answer. It's not really practical. It's just a game. It's a toy for now. But maybe in the future, some real practical static analyzers will show up and we start using it. I'm getting to the end of the 2 days, to the session about what's happening today. Overflow AI. Who knows about that? Who ever heard about that? That's just about maybe 1 week service, appeared maybe 1 week, maybe 10 days ago. You probably know Overflow, Stack Overflow, sorry. You know Stack Overflow, but now they introduced Overflow AI. What is it? When you go to Stack Overflow, if you want to ask the question, what can you do? You search Stack Overflow, and then you find existing answer, and then you go home. Or you post your question, and then you wait for the answers suggested by humans. Now they introduce a new feature. You type a question, and then most probably ChatGPT will generate an answer to you. So you will get an answer not from the human. You're not going to wait for a few hours until you get an answer, or for a few days if the question is difficult. But you get an answer immediately, and the answer is generated by ChatGPT. Most probably they're going to use ChatGPT. About half a year ago, Stack Overflow banned completely ChatGPT answers. You probably heard about this scandal. So not half a year, maybe a year and a half ago. So when ChatGPT entered the market, people started to post answers to Stack Overflow generated by ChatGPT. And that's why gaining the reputation, and that's why confusing the users sometimes, or sometimes helping the users. So people were happy, but administration of Stack Overflow, they were not happy. And the community was not happy. Well, 50-50, that's a large discussion on Stack Overflow where they exchange their opinions. And finally, we have this. Finally, we have Overflow AI. So what it leads to, in my opinion, it will lead to the increasing price of human answers. So now, why do we use Stack Overflow? Because it's a huge database of answers generated by people. If they will start generating answers by machines, then the answers generated by people will be decreasing. So people will post answers less and less because most of the answers will be generated by the machine. So the answers produced by humans will be more interesting, more important. So they have to show up. They will have to create a mechanism to incentivize people to do that, because people will be less and less motivated to do it manually. So machines will replace us, which will somehow have to, we will need some new mechanisms for posting answers. Because now they completely removed this mechanism. We were interested to post answers on Stack Overflow. Why? Because we talk to humans. I was posting there, I was asking questions there. Now I don't need this anymore. This Overflow AI, it's not launched yet, but it will be launched in a few weeks or so. So they already advertised it. So we're going to have probably a crisis of human-generated answers. And how to fight this crisis is going to be a big question. Because actually the value is in the human-generated answers. The ChatGPT cannot generate anything unless it found it somewhere, unless this answer was already posted by somebody. But if we decrease the number of things we post manually, then this ChatGPT will become dumber and dumber, more and more stupid. It will only know what it knows before, but you understand the problem. So we're getting to this problem by introducing such a service. They probably need to start thinking about what's next, how to incentivize us people to remain being people. And finally, I want to give you an example of what we did. We did research together with Innopolis University. This is the team of professors and students in Innopolis University. We did the research, and actually we published a paper. Actually, 3 days ago, the paper was, so the slide deck is incorrect. It says accepted for publication. It's already published. So the paper explains our solution, which is using machine learning, and it helps people to solve the problem of so-called backlog prioritization. You can watch these slides sometimes later, but in a few words, it works like this. When you have a backlog of tasks in your project, so you're the developer, let's say we're all developers, we have a large code base, we have a large backlog. Backlog is a list of tasks which need to be done. And then we need to pick up the task and do it. Each of us programmers need to decide which task to do next, which one to do next. And if the backlog is small, for example, we have 10 tasks, for example, this decision is trivial. You can just pick up the first one, solve it, and call it a day and pick the next one. But imagine you have a backlog of 500 tasks. So then the question is, okay, which one do we pick first? And this decision must be somehow grounded. It must be somehow, it must be reasonable. It must be based on some reasoning. So we created a machine, we created a robot, which makes this decision instead of a human. So we just gave this robot into the repository, and now the robot says, this is the task number 43. This is the one you pick first. And the task number 75 you pick next. And we tested this robot on real projects, and it shows that the accuracy of these suggestions is closer to what the humans would do, closer than other solutions. We had other solutions before, so we're not the first to solve this problem, but we introduced a solution which is more powerful, which is better than the solutions other people had before on the market. So that's our contribution to machine learning. It doesn't use ChatGPT, it's just machine learning. It's a traditional mechanisms which existed. It's not large language model, but quite practical application of artificial intelligence to programming, to help software developers improve their life, their everyday life. Okay, so that was about today. So what we have today, it's all, everything I showed you, it works. Everything you can use right now. Now we're moving to the territory of tomorrow. So what's going to happen next year? First, Copilot X, who knows about this? Who is expecting this? Who is waiting for this? Me too. Copilot X is going to be a new platform, a new solution, which GitHub is promising, still not on the market, but it will show up on the market. When it shows up, it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a revolution for software developers. Feature number 1, review pull requests. When, again, remember pull request. The programmer is sending the pull request, I need to review it, and then I need to make a decision to accept or to reject. It's not binary. The decision is not like this, yes or no. The decision usually consists of many complaints. So I'm saying, I don't like this line of code. I don't like that one line. I don't like how you do it, how you do the implementation of this feature. I don't like this and that. And the author of this code improves and improves and improves until I'm happy, and then I say, I accept. That's how it works. Imagine the computer will play the role of the reviewer. The computer will say, I don't like this, I don't like that, improve it here, improve it there, and explain why. And it's going to be very objective. It's going to be very smart. It's going to be very based on facts. It's not going to be emotional like most of us are. Most of the reviewers are very emotional, and these code reviews are sometimes a nightmare and people fight. It's going to be no fight there anymore. The computer will just objectively complain about low quality in certain parts of the code. And that's going to be Copilot X. They promise it. Imagine how much time it's going to save. Again, the question, what I'm going to do in this free time? I was doing code review for hours before. Now I will, I don't know, scroll Facebook. What am I going to do? Like I have nothing to do. So that's a big question for us. Really, computers will replace us. The question is what programmers will do. Maybe we will need less programmers, maybe. Or we will need less bad programmers. I'll get to this thought a bit later. So that's feature number 1, which I'm waiting, which all of us should be waiting. That will probably show up maybe next year or something. They promised it already. Actually, you see the link at the bottom. It says githubnext.com. I highly suggest you to check this website. It's called githubnext.com. They publish there all ideas that they're planning to put on the market soon. And now GitHub is the market maker. GitHub is the company that defines the market of software development, owned by Microsoft. Pay attention. ChatGPT owned by Microsoft, GitHub is owned by Microsoft. So it seems that the world of software development now is owned by one company. So they own GitHub, and GitHub Next is how they define the future, what's going to happen for us programmers. So I highly recommend you check this website and see what are they thinking about. And some of their ideas are quite bright and maybe not even implementable in the nearest future. Idea number 2, I also took it from GitHub Next. Write unit test. They call it test pilot. So imagine I have a piece of code, and I just copied this picture from the example they suggest. So you have a piece of code, and then you need to write a unit test. Actually, writing unit test is fun. People love to do it, but sometimes it's not fun, especially if the code is not yours. If the code was written by somebody else, you don't like to write unit tests for it. You just want it to happen. Just make me the unit test and make sure it works. But in most cases, the unit test will work. You just need it to exist in the code base. So the test pilot will just do it in one click of a button. It takes hours usually to write a unit test. Now the test pilot, just click a button, make me the unit test, make me unit test, make me unit test, and send it to my boss, and the boss will say, wow, you spent so much time. It was such a hard task. Sure, but it was done by test pilot. So that's another revolutionary technology, which will, now we know how to write unit tests automatically. We know this, we have technologies for this, but we don't have test pilot. We don't have a full automation for this. If they combine the already existing deterministic technologies plus ChatGPT together, this test pilot probably will be a very good thing to have. Feature number 3, again, GitHub Next. You see, I'm taking from them. They promise to visualize code base. It's a very interesting feature. When you look at the code base, especially when the code base is large, you don't know what belongs to what. You have many files, they depend on each other, they use the databases, they use the file system. You don't know what's going on there. It's a common problem, unless you are the developer there, unless you did this, unless you really know what's going on. If it's a new database and you need to jump into the project fast, you need some instrument to visualize what's going on. Just show me everything that belongs to the feature that I want to change. This feature doesn't work. I cannot upload my photos, for example, to my mobile application. Where is it in the application? There are 1,000 files. Which file do I touch? You just visualize it, and it will show you this diagram, something like that. You click and go deeper, deeper. You navigate your code visually. Not in a text form, but visually. And that's going to be a revolution as well. It's, again, such tools, they existed before, but they were not AI-powered to my knowledge. If they introduce that, it's going to be quite good instrument to navigate the code. And one more, before I show you what we did. This is the automated refactoring. I found it on only one website, only one system, one software product, which I'm not sure it actually is in production, but I believe it will happen tomorrow. It will happen. The idea is that refactoring. Refactoring is when you look at the code and you modify the function, you modify the way code looks, but you don't touch the functionality. For example, you have, I don't know, for example, you say x equals x plus 1. This is one line of code. You can replace it with x plus plus. Those who are programmers will understand me. So x equals x plus 1 or x plus plus, it's exactly the same, but they look different. So they look different, and many people will say that the second line looks better. So functionality-wise, they do exactly the same. They work the same. They just increment the x. They just make x larger. But they look different. And we know thousands of such refactorings. Not maybe thousands, hundreds of such refactorings. So I can take your code base and I can apply hundreds of different modifications to your code base, making it better and better and better. The problem is that I cannot apply them all. I cannot do them all at once, because in this case, the code base will change dramatically and you will not recognize it. You will not think it's your code base anymore. So I need to apply refactorings gradually, step by step, incrementally. The question is that, how do we decide which refactorings are helpful right now and which are not? I believe that AI in the future will help us to do this. So simply put, we know many good recipes for better health. We have many tablets, we have many pills, but we don't want to take them all. We just need AI to tell us, take this pill now, take that pill now, take that. And if AI will continue making such recommendations to programmers, the code base, the quality will increase and increase and increase and increase. And we will not even see that it's happening. It will be happening behind the scene. And the AI will do that. That's going to be the future. Because right now, the quality of code, we suffer because of low quality of code. A lot of code is difficult to understand. This is, in my opinion, problem number one for software development. Low maintainability of the code, low readability. We just don't understand what's going on, and because of this, we don't see the bugs. Because of this, we cannot write proper unit tests. Because of this, we cannot improve the functionality, and so on and so forth. AI will help that. AI will make such incremental refactorings, selecting the right pills for each place. We cannot do it deterministically. We cannot decide which pill is more suitable. There should be some non-deterministic approach, ChatGPT, machine learning, whatever. But they need to decide using many factors. This tool should be probably looking at the entire code base somehow, maybe some previous history, I don't know. So will definitely show up in the future. And let me show you what we did. Again, together with Innopolis people. So we formed a quite good team last year, and together with some professors, some students from the university, some of these students are here today, and we created, here's our idea. It's not now, it's for the future. So we made experiments, we wrote a number of papers, we published them, but the tool is not yet on the market, so it's not yet being used. That's the idea. When the project is being developed, when we have a code base, and the code base we have events, we have things that happen there. Somebody makes the changes to the code base. Somebody is removing the files. Somebody is making pull requests. They stop working on the code base. Some people join the team and they start working on the code base. Many decisions, many situations, many events, which are not only technical, but also organizational. People joining, people leave the code base, files being deleted, many, many things. What if the AI will look at this chaos which is happening in the repository, and at some point of time we'll see anomalies, we'll see non-traditional, non-typical behavior, that something is happening wrong. So that was a normal development, everything was going right, more or less, so normal speed, normal pace, normal quality, and then some peak, something that the human eye cannot see. Something that doesn't look abnormal to us. For us, it looks like, yeah, the code is being changed, some discussions, people talk to each other, but the AI can spot the problem in the discussions, for example. They can see, hey, the tone of the discussion is getting higher for some developers. So maybe they're not happy. Maybe they will start damaging the code base instead of being productive. The AI at this point, will make a suggestion to the project manager, hey, kick this off, these two guys, because they're less productive now. So put another 2 guys there, and these 2 people move to another project. And this decision made by the AI manager, AI supervisor, is absolutely impossible to make without the AI. The human cannot make this decision. And imagine this robot watches thousands of repositories in a large organization. In a big company, there are many, many repositories people work with. And imagine this robot is watching all of them and makes suggestion to the manager. Where are the risky parts? Where are the threats? Where are the problems, potential problems? So we created such a robot. We didn't create a full robot which is fully functional because it's for tomorrow, remember? But we made a lot of steps towards that. And we actually demonstrated that this robot can work. And we published a number of papers about that. So that's our contribution to the future of AI. And now we're getting to the place where I have no so much certainty. I don't know exactly what will happen, but I can predict. So in a few years, maybe, that's my visionary part of this presentation, there are many methods right now on the market which allow so-called static analysis of the code. Without running the product, without executing the application, without giving control to the application, we can look at the source code and say that probably, most probably, or highly likely, or maybe, at this line of code, there will be an error. At this line of code, there will happen a division by 0, for example. So at this line of code, we have 5 divided by x. We don't know what's going to be the x. But the computer predicts, by looking around, it seems that x may be 0 at this line. And 5 divided by x, it's going to lead to division by 0, and the computer will stop, the application will crash. So this is called static analysis. So we analyze the code without running this. And we know deterministic methods of static analysis. Like, for example, I quote here symbolic execution. Symbolic execution is one of the most traditional methods of analyzing the code. So basically, from the code, they generate a control flow graph, and they look what happens after what. They simulate the execution. They instead of X, they introduce some symbols, and then they find the best or the most possible direction to the place, to the line where the problem may happen, and they say, yes, we see that there will be a problem. That's symbolic execution. I think that in the future, deterministic, why it's called deterministic? Because it's quite mathematical, and it's absolutely, it's either yes or no. This method will either tell you, yes, I see the bug there, or the method will say, no, there is no bug there. They make mistakes. So symbolic execution is not 100% guarantee. I mean, there's no 100% guarantee that they will find the bug. Sometimes they will just say, no, there is no bug, nothing will happen, so X will never be 0, even though it's wrong, even though X may be 0. So I believe that the future is in the integration of non-deterministic methods like ChatGPT and deterministic. If you give the code, unfortunately, I forgot to show you the code, but it's possible to imagine a little small piece of code, which if you give to symbolic execution engine, the traditional one, it will say no bug. Everything will be fine. There will be no crash with this application. But if you give it to ChatGPT will tell you, yes, I see the bug. Here, X will be 0, so division by 0 will happen. So ChatGPT is smarter in some cases. And in some cases, symbolic execution is smarter. So I believe there will be a combination in the future, maybe in a few years, maybe in 5 years. People will start introducing methods where symbolic execution is combined with non-deterministic methods, with AI, with ChatGPT or something like this. And that's going to be, again, really big breakthrough in the area of quality control. Because we control quality by static analysis, I don't know, for 30 years, for quite a long time. Now, we are entering the territory where AI can be merged together with these instruments, and then the new mechanism will show up. Okay. Second, what will happen, I believe, is that AI can start making pull requests. Remember I told you about pull requests, the review, so the AI is looking at the pull requests and judging the pull requests and complaining about the quality. Imagine AI starts making pull requests. So now not the programmer has to sit down and look at okay, there's a bug, how do I fix the bug? I change these lines of code and I submit the pull request, then it's being reviewed, accepted, and the bug is fixed. Now the ChatGPT or AI just opens the code base, opens the description of the problem, and makes the changes, introduces the pull requests. That's definitely will show up. Not tomorrow, not maybe in a few years, but it will happen. And then, again, the programmers will again save a lot of time. So now we don't even need to write code. And I'm not talking about code completion here. Code completion is when the programmer is sitting in front of the computer and typing the code. Here I'm talking about complete removal of the programmer from the picture. The AI makes the changes, and AI makes the code review. One AI, one machine, one robot is making changes, another robot is reviewing the changes. What do people do? That's a big question. Maybe observing the work of AI robots, I don't know. That's definitely going to happen. And feature number 3, which will also show up in the future, appraise our work. That's my hope that this will happen, because now the question of appraisal of programmers. So we are humans, we work, we're programmers, and then the question is, who is a better programmer, who is a worse programmer? Who deserves the salary raise, who doesn't deserve the salary raise? Who deserves to go into a more complex project, who is not? That's a huge problem for management. The management doesn't know how to answer it right now. It's all subjective. Some people even say that measuring productivity of programmers is a bad idea in the first place. So we shouldn't measure productivity. We should just say we all are productive. We all love each other. That's it. But actually there are lazy programmers. They exist, believe me. And I'm one of them. So what if the AI will look at what's going on, will look at how I work, how much code I write, how many pull requests I do, how do I review the code, and then somehow make a decision as a smart manager. And it will tell me, look, your productivity this month is lower than your productivity the months before, and actually is higher than the productivity of your friend. So this appraisal of humans done by computers, I think it's the future territory of innovation, the future territory of breakthrough products. which will help managers. Now the managers are out of the office. So the managers now are in the office mostly for this subjective evaluation of productivity. Without the manager, we don't know who is good, who is bad. The manager is like a supervisor of the team, telling people what to do and actually then providing the feedback to them. What if the feedback is provided by the machine? Objective feedback. Forget the manager. The manager doesn't know how to evaluate our productivity. The AI will do it much better. Then programmer is not needed. The manager is not needed as well. Okay, so that's it about tomorrow, years from now. Now decades. Now one slide I have left. What will happen in 10 years, in 15 years? I think who knows this movie? Many people. No, not so many. I highly recommend you to watch this movie, Ex Machina. That was some time ago, 10 years ago. In this movie, they show the picture. They draw the story of an AI, of a machine, taking over humans, but not like in the Terminator mode, not by using the armor, the guns, but they're using the brain. So the machine just outsmarts the people. The machine becomes more smarter, and by just talking to people, it causes them to almost kill each other, or something like that. I'm not going to spoil. It's an interesting movie. So the machine outsmarts people. This is what's going to happen, I believe, in 15 or 20 years. What will happen? The computers, from being the tools which we programmers use, like I demonstrated you, the computers will become our leaders. So they will tell us what to do. They will hire and fire us. They will decide who deserves this job in the project. They will appraise us, remember, in 5 years. But in 15 years, they don't just appraise. They will just say, this guy doesn't need to stay in this project. He must be fired. And this decision will be so valuable, it will be so respected by everybody that we'll have no chance to dispute it, no chance to argue back. It's going to be just the machine is saying that, that's it. It's just like a law. So the machines will take power by getting control of the brains. They will be smarter, and because they're smarter, we will trust them more and more and more, and eventually it will be illegal not to trust them. That's how I see the future. It will be illegal not to trust the machines. And by that, they will take control, not by guns. Back to software development. They will decide how much to pay us. Again, if they appraise, if they see everything that we do, if they see every line of code you write, if they know how you do it and which time of the day, how you communicate with your friends, how you change the code, how often you go to the office, how often you open your computer, they know everything about you. They can clearly judge who you are. They can clearly decide how much to pay you and why. So this decision will be made by the robot and the software team. And again, we will have to obey. And finally, they will plan our projects. So they will plan what in the project should happen, exactly which features need to be implemented. Now we decide, I want this feature, I want this bug to be fixed. Why do we decide that? If the machine knows everything about the code, the machine has the marketing plan, the machine has the data from the market, the machine has the statistics from the server, why do we decide which feature is needed for the customer? The machine will say, this is the feature we do tomorrow. And we programmers will just do it. Or the computers will do it. Remember, the computers can make pull requests. The computers can review pull requests. So they decide which feature is needed, which bug needs to be fixed first, who will fix this bug, they will fix the bug, they will do the code review, and they will deploy it to the production servers. What do we do? I don't know. And finally, my final line, I think that computers will also get access to our biometric data. So we have wearable devices. You know about the patent submitted by Apple just 2 weeks ago. They're going to make the new earphones with the EEG scanners in there. So you wear your phones, your Apple devices. Search for the patent, Apple patent for the EEG devices. You wear your headphones, and they scan your brain activity all day long. So they not only know which music you listen to, they not only know your location, not how you move, but they know what you feel. What is your brain activity? What's your electric signals in the brain? When you write the code, they know what you feel. When you don't write the code, when you do the code review, so they know you as a source of biometric data. And when this happens, imagine how powerful they will be. And we will be happy to see this. We will make them this powerful. We will give them this power. Step by step, incrementally. And then we will not be able to take it back, I believe. It will be illegal to take it back because they will be much smarter than us. And if they're smarter, why fighting with them? That's it. Thanks.
Igor, thank you for your valuable thoughts. We have several questions, but as we are out of the timing, I will just ask one that is short. So when product managers will start to write code without developers, programmers? So you've said that in several decades. Could you please maybe say something about limitations or somehow say more about the timeline, so some precise?
When the project manager will write code without programmers, yeah? Well, I think it will happen step by step. First of all, I think, like I said, it's going to be maybe 2-3 years. The machines will start making changes, make pull requests. Now they're only on the review side. And maybe that's going to be a big philosophical, ethical question for the community. I think so. It's going to be a debate. Like, is it really good that now the machines are actually demonstrating initiative? That will be scary. Now the machines, they don't have initiative. They just do everything when we ask them to do it. If they start making pull requests, that's the initiative coming from the machine. And this is what's going to look scary for the community. And this is the moment when we will see machines taking over. This is the moment when the project manager can say, okay, now I need, instead of 10 programmers, I need 8 programmers. Because clearly, 20% of the tasks are coming, results are coming from the machines directly. And I pay for this machine $20 a month, instead of paying, I don't know how much for the developers. So just $20 a month, that's how much I pay for ChatGPT, and this ChatGPT will generate changes to me, making it like expressing the initiative. So the initiative will come from the machine. This is going to be the moment when it will start. And then it will be just faster, faster, faster. The power will grow, like the previous speaker said, that the size of the model actually leads to the power of the model. And the size will grow, and the power will grow, and then we will see better and better code changes from the machines. The better results coming there. And then imagine the project manager who would say, no, I don't like that. I actually want to stop it. I see high quality changes coming from this soulless robot, but I want to stop it because I love my programmers. It's not going to happen. They're all driven by money. They're all driven by business effect. So of course, all project managers will just say, yeah, definitely, just hire more ChatGPT programmers, more. I need not 2, I need 20 of them. And then the question for programmers will be, what's going to happen? And probably the most obvious answer, if you're interested, in my opinion, most probable answer is that programmers will start coding the machines. So if you want not to lose the job in the future, then start coding the machines. So start learning AI, start thinking. You will be the operator of the Terminator. If you want to be in market, if you want to have the salary, you will be the most paid guy if you are the operator of this smart machine, of the Terminators who replace the humans. But if you remain just a programmer, then 10 years and you're out of the market. If you're just a programmer, if you're doing what you're doing right now. So we need to change. We need to think about changing our job, changing the things we do. In my opinion, we need to become, like I said, operators. People who make better Terminators.
Igor, thank you very much. That's it for today. Thank you everyone for attention.
Bye-bye.